From this moment on, you will be Jinhsi, the new magistrate of Jinzhou.
Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we are going to be going through our CN unit analysis for Jinhsi, the strongest DPS we have right now as of version 1.1. And without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! So Jinhsi, her kit, she is a burst damage dealer that comes out from the dragon laser, right? When she switched out this dragon laser, she will deal tons of damage. That is, if you understand this point, you have, congratulations, you have mastered Jinhsi, right? So that is basically what her entire kit boils down to. Stack up your little incantation, so you can see this yellow bar, bring it up to as high as you can, and once this reaches full, you can shoot out your little dragon laser and you'll do tons of damage, right? So her basic attack has 4 portions. 1, 2, 3, 4. After casting a basic at 4 times, you can see that this little corner over here, her skill glows up. That's where you can cast the enhanced skill. So Jinhsi has 4 different skills, right? So going to Jinhsi, she has 4 different skills. She has E1, E2, E3, E4. She has 4 different skills, so that's gonna be the abbreviation. So E1 is this. And 90% of the time, you're never gonna be using this, right? 90% you're never gonna be using. You're always gonna be using her E2. So E2 activates upon the 4th basic attack. So 1, 2, 3, 4, lights up. This is her E2. So now she starts flying on the sword. And then you can instantly cast E3. And then you have to cast your E4 only after another 4 basic attacks. So the full combo is as follows. Basic 1, 2, 3, 4, E2, E3, then basic 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you cast, and then you just do tons of damage, right? So that is how Jinhsi's rotation is gonna be like. One point to note is if you dodge out of Jinhsi's basic attack animation, it will get cancelled. So you can see that 1, 2, if you dodge, it will reset back to 1, 2. Alright, so this is not good because you can only cast your E2 upon the 4th basic attack sequence. But upon reaching this stage, that's when you can dodge and still continue the change and still cast E4. It is absolutely crucial for Jinhsi to start flying up. So once you are here, you have a lot more freedom. You can attack and dodge and attack and dodge. And you can always pop this. So that is a very, very important point for Jinhsi, right? As you can see from the multipliers, E1 and E2 multiplier is at 155 and 197, so it's not that great. But E3 is at a 503% multiplier. Absolutely insane. So this is where we can start to see that Jinhsi's damage kit, it's slightly backloaded because before you reach this E3 multiplier, she doesn't deal a lot of damage. So you do want to reach to this E3 as soon as humanly possible. Now, multiplier to multiplier, at a glance, it may appear that E4 has less damage than E3. But this is not factoring in our talent, which is the yellow bar over here. For every 1 point of incandescence, it will grant a bonus damage multiplier percentage to Stellar Glamour, which is the dragon vomit, right? Damage multiplier increase. It is not a damage percent, it is straight up a multiplier increase. So at 50 points, this E4 is the reason why I'm seeing like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 nukes. Because of this incandescence full stacks stacked out together with E4, right? So this is why, despite the fact that the first look, it may look like a little bit smaller, but this is definitely Jinhsi's highest burst damage potential, right? So very, very good shit. As long as your incandescence exceeds 27 points, it will deal ridiculous damage. In fact, I believe this is higher than your ultimate damage. If you have higher than 27 points of incandescence, this E4 does more damage than Jinhsi's ultimate, 27 points and above. And Jinhsi's ultimate has the highest multiplier in the entire game. So So speaking about her ultimate, at level 10, this shit does almost 1,600% multiplier, making it the strongest, highest ultimate damage multiplier in the entire game. For both ultimate as well as the E4 is where Jinhsi has a serious nuke potential that you can see from a kit. Keep in mind, this ultimate cost is unfortunately 150 instead of our traditional 125 from Jiyan and Yingling, so it can take a little bit long to actually get this up to speed, right? Which is why still majority of Jinhsi's damage will be coming from her E4, the Stellar Glamour, the Dragon Warrior. This is where the majority of the damage is coming from. But just keep in mind her ultimate damage is the highest multiplier in the entire game, right? So keep that in mind. Alright, so for her talent, it might seem like a little bit confusing, especially like how do you gain the points of incandescence? So you get 1 point of incandescence for every elemental damage from the same element, and you get 2 points from our coordinated attack damage. So if you were to use Jinhsi plus Yingling, so Jinhsi attacks, Yingling is a different element, so you get another element, and then another 2 points of coordinated damage, you will get 4 points of incandescence, right? So you can see here, she has 1 point over here from Jinhsi, 1 point over here from Yingling, and then 2 points over here because of Yingling's coordinated attack damage. That's how you get 4 points of incandescence, right? Unfortunately, if you were to have the same element, such as Verena, you will not get the point from this because it is the same element, and innately, this has a 3-second cooldown. Reduced to 1 second upon casting outro skill, but it still has a cooldown. So the same combo from a coordinate attack from Verena's ultimate, it will only give you 3 points, right? So that is basically how this point system works. TLDR, Verena is currently Jinhsi's strongest, like quote-unquote support slash healer. Yingling is Jinhsi's strongest quote-unquote slot 2 DPS, because these are the units that will give you sustain, help you charge up the fastest, give you a lot of damage, buff, utility, all that kind of stuff, right? So the best in slot 2 for Jinhsi right now is going to be Jinhsi, Yingling, and Verena. In the future, there might be more units coming out that might benefit her even more, but for now, this gotta be the best in. So hopefully you guys understand how the incandescence, yeah, Motefi works as well. So if you are using Motefi, right, so imagine if this is Motefi, instead of Electro, it's gonna be fusion damage. So it's gonna be 1 point from Jinhsi, 1 point from fusion damage from Motefi, and 2 points from Motefi's coordinated attack damage. Right? Motefi works, Yuanwu works, even Baizhi, right? She also works. So as long as it's a different element coordinate attack damage, you give you 4 points. But if it's the same element, then it's only 3 points because of the innate cooldown. Right? Cool. Beautiful. Every point of incandescence is a 44.5% multiplier increase for 1 point. So at 50 points, that is a 2,225% multiplier at max rank, at max dex. Which is why Jinhsi, you really want her to stack on this as fast as humanly possible. You really need this to go up to 50 as fast, because every point is 44.5% multiplier, right? So that is the core. This is easier. So this is why Jinhsi's core mechanic is stacking up to 50 incandescence as fast as quickly as you can to deal the highest amount of damage. This is going to be Jinhsi's outro skill. It will reduce the cooldown from 3 seconds to 1 second, and this lasts for 20 seconds. So it allows you to build on stacks for the same element a little bit quicker. Doesn't really change a lot, because if in the future, if you were to change out Verena for another sustain that's not spectral element, then it doesn't really make sense. But it's still a very good way to make her buff up her stacks a lot quicker than you would know, right? And I think one point that I forgot to mention, switching to other resonators will remove Jinhsi's unison to trigger outro skill and incoming resonator's intro skill. This is consumed in priority of console energy. This is absolutely broken, because the whole mechanic of Wuthering Waves team building is to cycle through your team's intro outro skill, and this intro outro skill, it is one of the fundamental principles of team building, even for damage output, because as we know, every single time you do an intro attack, you deal a little bit of toughness bar damage to the boss, the vibration, right? Jinhsi completely bypasses conserval energy regeneration. The moment you activate the E4, you will instantly cast the console. It's assumed, it's almost as if your console is up to full, and it doesn't even consume your current console energy. So you are pretty much almost always gonna have a 100% uptime on this outro skill. Almost 100% uptime. Because this shit lasts for 20 seconds. And every single time you cast your E4, the Stellar Glamour, you can trigger Unison. And the more you trigger Unison, you can swap out and activate your outro skill again. This thing basically have a almost 100% uptime. It allows Jinhsi to stack up incandescence at a incredibly fast pace, which is the main reason why she is our strongest DPS, bar none, in version 1.1. A little bit of a comparison I'll show you guys a little bit later is that between Jinhsi and Jiyan, she outperformed him at almost every single benchmark, just for like theoretical sheet damage comparison, right? So ultimate highest multiplier in the game, 1666, even higher than Havoc MC's ultimate multiplier. Strongest ultimate in the entire game, nuclear damage, right? Nuclear damage. Praise priority. Forte circuit over ultimate, over intro skill, over basic attack. So yeah. Rotation for Jinhsi, if you are confused by how her kit works, if you're confused by all the yapping, if you're confused, screenshot this, you master Jinhsi in 2 seconds. Basic attack 4 times. Pass E2, E3. Basic attack 4 times. Cast E4. That's it. Rinse and repeat, big Anga damage. Notice how this E4 is like, you're always casting this. She's always casting. There's almost like no, there is a cooldown, but there's almost no cooldown. So you can pretty much permanently spam this for the entire battlefield. As long as your first E2, which is 12-second cooldown, is up, you just keep spamming this. There's innately no cooldown, like at all. The only cooldown is tied by your E1, E2 cooldown, which is 12 seconds. Even though her damage is kind of backloaded to E3 and E4 and ultimate, the rotation can be extremely fast, right? So that is basically how it works. Good thing is that if you were to cast a intro/outro skill from another unit, you can instantly fly up. So you don't even have to do your 4 basic attacks, which is arguably Jinhsi's longest downtime. Right? So this completely removes her weakness. This 4 basic attacks is kind of slow. That is pretty much one of her only weakness. But the moment you cast somebody's intro outro skill, you can instantly go up to the air. Once you're up in the air, you can dodge and continue basic attacking, and the animation does not reset. So you have a lot of flexibility. Alright, so yeah, that's why her kit is overall just very nice, very reactive, and this is the only thing you need to take away. Damage distribution of Jinhsi, 74.6% of her damage output is from resonance skill. Despite the fact that her ultimate has the highest multiplier in the entire game, it is unfortunately crippled by a relatively high energy cost of 150, so it is only going to be 18.2% of the total damage output. So majority of all her damage is going to be coming from the resonance skill, because keep in mind, the moment you have maximum stacks on the incantation, incantation, whatever the fuck, you get a 2225% multiplier buff, 50 stacks. So her resonance skill is going to be pretty much all of the damage, right? So that's gonna tell you the subset distribution or the priority you want for Jinhsi. Echoes, very straightforward. Dre, our brand new 4-cost, best in slot, no questions asked. This also does help us to stack on our stacks as well, so very nice. 43311 does more damage than 4111. This is gonna be E0, right? E0 with Yingling, Marina, that's gonna be this. But as you unlock more and more dupes, more resonance chain, the favor starts to shift a little bit. Because her resonance chain 1 gives you damage percentage buff, right? And her by resonance chain 6, 4411 actually performs almost identical, which is crazy. For the subsets, you want double crit over attack percentage, over resonance skill damage, over flat attack, over energy regeneration / liberation damage ultimate. If you are thinking of getting energy regeneration for Jinhsi, around 120 to 130% is gonna be the optimal amount to roughly reduce the rotation slightly to get a slightly better ultimate uptime, right? So if you're thinking of getting energy regeneration, not worth it for you guys to swap out a main stat for this. It is not worth it. For the most part, for your 3-cost especially, you still do want either attack percentage or elemental damage instead of energy regeneration. You can kind of just get this 20-30% from your subsets, right? So that's gonna be that. And speaking of 3-cost, would you want attack percentage or would you want damage percentage on your 3-cost? You can take a look over here. For E0 plus signature weapon, best distribution is gonna be 1 elemental damage percentage and 1 attack percentage. For E6 S5, because she has so much damage percentage from her Eidolons, from her resonance dupes and all that kind of stuff, double attack percentage is gonna be best choice for E6 S5. And then for resonance chain 0 with no signature weapon, then you can just opt for double elemental damage, right? So that's gonna be the 3 cost distribution. E0 S1, attack elemental, and blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. Okay, one thing to note is the difference between elemental damage and attack percentage is very small. It's barely 1%. 1%不到. It's less than 1%. So frankly speaking, you don't really have to care about it that much. As long as you have good substats, then just use it. Very, very, very minimal impact, right? So something to keep in mind. Jumping into the weapons is gonna be right here. Alright, so this is gonna be our signature weapon for Jinhsi. At 1 copy is 100%. If you get up to 5 copies, it is a 13.57% damage buff. Is it worth 5 copies? It's gonna be up to you. If you do not want to pull for a signature weapon and you want to get Jiyan signature weapon, it is gonna be a roughly 12% damage drop off, which honestly is not that crazy, right? 12% is still arguably not too bad. And then if you do not have Jiyan signature weapon and you go for the standard signature weapon, then it's gonna be a 18% damage drop off. The reason why this is more than a 10% drop off is because Jinhsi fundamentally doesn't really care about heavy attack bonus at all. She doesn't care at all. Right, but the reason why this is still pretty good is because of the crit damage main stat as well as this 12%, right? So this heavy attack damage bonus, she don't really care about it that much, right? So it is what it is. So this is gonna be Jiyan signature weapon or the lustrous razor, I believe, right? So that's gonna be that. And then if you want to go for the 4-star option, it's pretty steep. Between this and the signature weapon, it is a 30%, 29, 31% damage drop off. This is S5. This is S5, right? So I would say that if you don't have Jinhsi's signature weapon, do expect. It's not to say that these weapons are bad, right? These weapons are fine, right? Attack percentage with up to 4 stacks of attack percentage increase, as well as the fact that you have a crit rate of 20.2%. It's stacking on attack percentage, right? So these weapons they're not fundamentally bad. It's just that the signature weapon is so fucking good. It makes the 4 stars look bad in comparison. 12% attribute damage bonus, as well as a skill damage bonus that goes up to 48%. So it's just too good with a crit rate main as well, right? So it is what it is. For my whales, for my Oilers, for my slightly less relatable players, this is gonna be Jinhsi's Eidolons, right? Eidolon 1, Resonance, okay, Resonance Chain, 12.7% final damage increase. This goes up to a staggering 80% damage buff. Stacks up to 4 times, goes all the way. Okay, let me just go to the English version because like 80%, because this does stack up to 4 times. Absolutely insane for a 12.7%. I would say that at this point, if you're thinking about getting the signature weapon first or the Eidolon 1 or the Resonance Chain 1 first, get the signature weapon. It is a way more considerable upgrade compared to her dupe, right? So E0 S1 and then E1 S1. So that is the order of pooling priority, right? So just a quick little note. Resonance Chain 2 is gonna be a slightly lower 10.86% damage increase, but it is still very, very decent. Not as impactful, slightly not as it, but it is still quite impactful, right? It restores 50 incandescence while staying out of combat, which means you will get the full stacks. You will instantly swap in and get the max stack for a big 2225% damage multiplier, which in Power Adversity, it might not matter that much, but in the overworld, ooh, big buff. Because in Tower Adversity, for the most part, you are almost always going to be using her as an on-field unit, right? So this doesn't really matter that much. But in the overall, when you're just chilling with her, you can always just stagger up, boom, boom, you just nuke everything inside, right? So makes it feel a little bit smoother when you were chilling outside, right? So that's going to be that. If going by the rotations of 2 full combos, this is based on 2 full combos, it is roughly a 10.86% damage increase. Main reason is going to be because of, as you can see over here, 大世界无限火力, right? It is mainly for the overall. You instantly one-shot any mob you see, boom. Very, very comfortable for your overall, right? So that is roughly the main purpose. Resonance Chain 3, a 15.85% final damage increase. Holy moly, absolutely ridiculous. Gains 1 stack of Immortal Descendancy after casting intro skill. Increase attack by up to basically 50% attack buff. Crazy chat. So yeah, very straightforward. Basically, big damage amplification, all that kind of stuff. So yep, not too much to talk about. Resonance Chain 4 is just 5.94%, so not too crazy over there. So what does Resonance Chain 4 do? It's gonna be over here. All nearby residents gain 20% actual damage for 20 seconds. Not too bad, but for the majority of the time, it doesn't impact your slot tree because your slot tree is Verena. Does a Verena care about this 20% damage buff? Maybe not so much, but it will be pretty good if you have a pretty strong slot too. So for example, if you have like a, let's just Resonance Chain 6 Yingling, then this is gonna make her judgment deal a lot more, right? So other than that, this is a very not a crazy amount of increase because this is not a damage deepen. This is not a damage amplification. This does a damage percentage bonus. So not too crazy, right? But if you do run like a no sustain team, like no Verena, then this might see a little bit more of a higher usage, right? But this is assuming with Verena, right? Okay, Resonance Chain 5, 120% damage multiplier increase. Goes from 1,660 to 1,780% damage multiplier. Damage multiplier is always the end all be all of damage output. Period. Nothing is more impactful than damage multiplier, and this should increase damage multiplier 120%. For any other unit, this might be quite crazy, but for Jinhsi, it's not like a 50 or like a 60% damage final damage increase because Jinhsi fundamentally herself, her ultimate already has such a ridiculously high multiplier. She already has a 1.6k% damage multiplier. So for any other unit, if you get a 120% multiplier buff, this is probably looking to be like 30 or 40% increase. But for Jinhsi, it is like slightly lower because the ultimate already does so much damage. But still, nonetheless, an insane Resonance Chain 5, right? So absolutely crazy. And then going to Resonance Chain 6 is gonna be the big boy. 22.38% final damage increase because your resonance skill multiplier is increased by 45% and additional multiplier is good. So this goes up by another 90% proportionately because your multiplier is lower than ultimate because this is 120% out of 1.6k. Whereas this is 90% out of roughly 500-ish percent, right? So proportionally, this will have an even greater weight. Not to mention, you spam this skill a lot more frequently than your ultimate. So this has a much higher trigger frequency than the ultimate. So Resonance Chain 6 is going to be this. I do want to let you guys know that this 22.38, it used to be stronger. This 45%, it used to be 70%. It actually got nerfed. So Jinhsi's Resonance Chain 6, it used to be completely fucking bonkers, but they actually nerfed it to 45. So now she's not that insane, right? If by the previous value, it's just like, yeah. So just letting you guys know this got nerfed a little bit. But nonetheless, still absolutely bonkers, absolutely ridiculous. In summary, at Resonance Chain 0, get Signature Weapon first before Resonance Chain 1. After getting Signature Weapon, then you can consider getting for Resonance Chain 1. You can consider getting one dupe. If you don't want to, at Resonance Chain 0, E0S1, it is completely fine. Her kit is already strong enough, buffed enough to be the strongest DPS in version 1.1, right? So that's gonna be that. Team building for Jinhsi. There's two schools of thought. So one is utilizing coordinated attack from Yingling, from Yuanwu, from Motefi, stack up incandescence and spam your Dragon Vomit as much as you can, the 50-point Dragon Vomit. So this is gonna be one school of thought with coordinated attack damage. Try to use differing elements, right? Try to not use the same elements. So this is lucky for us that we have an Electro on Fusion. So this allows us to gain our stack as fast as humanly possible, right? So that's gonna be that different element with coordinated attack damage bonus, right? So that's gonna be one example. Our strongest slot 2 right now is going to be Yingling. She has the highest multipliers. She has the judgment. So overall, this is going to be the strongest slot 2, right? So that's gonna be that. If you want to go for a full-on offensive setup, you can opt for a Mortefi Yingling and Jinhsi, sacrificing Verena, completely foregoing the safety of her heals and the revive, and just go all out damage. So this is kind of low-key like your 0 cycle team comp if you play Honkai Starbucks, right? So this will allow Jinhsi to stack on the incandescence at the most inhuman speed. This is gonna be one possible scenario because for Jinhsi, she actually does not care that much about Verena's all-type damage amplification because she cares more about getting 50 points of incandescence as soon as humanly possible. And MrPokke being also having the coordinated attack ultimate as well as being a deferring element allows Jinhsi to stack on much faster. But that being said, if you do want to use this team with very high damage amplification, very high damage output, you do need to know how to dodge. You need to know how to dodge, you know how to parry. If you get hit, it's kind of joy for you, right? So play this with a pinch of salt. Play it with a pinch of salt, right? Another setup is gonna be a sort of like a quick swap setup. So the quick swap setup with Jinhsi, it is not as recommended compared to the first team. This is gonna be where both Jinhsi and your second DPS, like your Encore, Calchero, as well as your Heavy Rover, you are gonna be running a DPS with a damage downtime. For example, Encore, when she used her enhanced heavy attack, she curls up to a ball. You can swap to Jinhsi to do damage. For Calchero, upon the third strike, when she jumps up into the air, you can quick swap. For Heavy MC, when it comes to ultimate, you can quick swap. So this is like the quick swap team. Is it better? Is it worse? I'll leave that up to you guys to pilot. But overall, definitely not as easy to use compared to the first team, right? The first team, you just anga banga, swap around, press ultimate, spam attack, and you spam the dragon laser and just win. This one, it really requires a lot of quick swapping, so not really recommended for the casual player base, right? And we don't even know if this team does more damage, but this is going to be another alternative path that you guys can consider, right? So just utilizing quick swapping to deal damage for all units. One example is going to be using Jinhsi with Heavy MC, because Heavy MC is going to be like a burst damage. During Jinhsi's E2 into E3, there is a window of opportunity to quick swap. So upon quick swapping with Heavy MC, you can swap in and do whatever she want to do, cast a skill, cast an ultimate, and then you swap back, right? So this is just one example of using a quick swap, right? So team 1, team 2, team 3, up to you, right? Whichever team you use, Jinhsi is gonna be there to kind of just tie everything together because her multiplier is just so goddamn high. Very flexible DPS, insane, changes everything. Okay, one small point I want to talk about Jinhsi before we wrap up this video is going to be a potential state of quote-unquote power creep in Wuthering Waves. So a CM bro actually managed to do up this graph real quick over here. They have found that Jinhsi with Yingling at E0 S0 has outperformed Jiyan with MrPokke at E0 S1 at every stage of resonance chain. So in E0 S0 Jinhsi does roughly 10% more damage than E0 S1 Jiyan. And an E0 S1 Jinhsi does 30% more damage than an E1 S1 Jiyan. Now, of course, and you can see that the numbers over here, 30%, 32%. At every point, Jinhsi is outperforming Jiyan in a theoretical setup. Keep in mind, there's 2 points I want to mention. Number 1, Jiyan is running a 4-star slot 2, right, which is MrPokke. So if we get another slot 2 that is like a upgraded version of MrPokke with Jiyan, then maybe the differences might not be that big because we are after all using Yingling with Jinhsi, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, this is also in a theoretical setup within 25 seconds. Jiyan's one complete cycle with Jinhsi's one complete cycle. So in practical situations, you are probably not going to be facing this as much because at the end of the day, it is always up to a player's piloting experience. If you're more comfortable with using Jiyan, right, the Sile, the casting ultimate, you group everything together, you just feel more comfortable using Jiyan, then it doesn't matter what Jinhsi's damage is going to be, right? So this is all in a theoretical vacuum assumption. So these 2 points you do want to take into consideration, but this will inevitably bring up the question of is power creep in Wuthering Waves a little bit too much? Because it has been less than 1 patch and Jinhsi is already outperforming Jiyan by this amount. Leave your comments down below on what do you guys think about this situation, right? So that's it. And with that, we've come to the end of today's content. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below or join the discord.gg/Pokke village where according to Wuthering Waves on a daily basis. Want to come and stream that twitch.tv/music YouTube. So that's all today. All the best for your Jinhsi pools, all the best for Jinhsi weapon pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.